Welcome to the NZ Everyday Investor. I'm Darcy Ungara. I'm sitting with Tom Hartmann. Tom, do you want to tell us how you fit into the world of money?
Thanks, Darcy. Yeah, so I'm managing editor at CFFC, the Commission for Financial Capability, and which means that I edit the sorted website and a lot of our materials there. And I also manage a couple fraud education specialists who help to educate people about scams.
Cool. That's awesome. And thank you for coming on the show recently, and again for this short episode that we're going to do today. And I guess maybe over summer, sometimes we kind of wind down a little bit, and it's a little bit easy for us to soak in a little bit of information. I wanted to cover off maybe just a couple of perspectives that can really help the people that are often, I guess, left behind when it comes to the messages that get put out there. There's a lot of education, a lot of resource and advice that gets aimed at the people at the very top, the already wealthy.
Yep.
And with the good work that you guys are doing, it's very broad. It tries to capture a little bit, everything. And there's a lot more digital offerings which are capturing people that are kind of unserved.
Yep.
But I want to talk about the middle, or the average sort of people that are just doing their thing, and just talk a little bit about their struggle, because they do struggle a little bit. They get forgotten sometimes.
Absolutely. I wanted to mention at the Commission, we've been sort of, in order to help people a little bit better, we've been sort of using a medical triage model. And so, as you can imagine, down, people who need a lot more help, and very often are even getting government help. We call them people who are in the ICU, people who are in emergency. People on the top end, who really got their finances in order, we call them the GP visits folks.
Gotcha.
They just need to check in every once in a while. They've got pretty much
they're sorted. They might get a cold or herpes
things
or
can
whatever
happen to them, and they can end up in this middle section. In this middle section, we call it on the ward. Right. And so those are a lot of people who either are disengaged with their finances, and maybe they've got enough cash to splash around, in the short term, but overall, it's kind of it's unsustainable, or it's not really growing, or it's people who are really stretched. Yes. So you might have overstretched families. Those are priority, and it's those folks who are in the middle that we're really trying to reach and help and see what can be done. Cool. And it's one of the reasons why we focus on investment vehicles like KiwiSaver or things like that, because that is a vehicle that's really almost aimed at helping people in that sector grow wealth.
Because I think I often see this issue where people are trying to, maybe it might be just they're selling their home and they're trying to buy a bigger home, and when you unlock it a little bit, you realize that actually maybe getting a short-term loan to go to Hawaii with the kids last year wasn't really a good idea, or going to the rugby this year, or getting a brand new vehicle on hire purchase, not so good. They struggle with leaking money. Yeah. And they have the ability to do amazing things. Yeah. But
they do.
Their financial base, the education that they received growing up or whatever, was deficient, and they started off on the wrong foot. So what kind of message would you give to someone like that, or what kind of resources could you kind of, I don't know, point them in the right direction of?
Yeah, I mean, this is the value of financial planning, but essentially what we're after is a lot more intentional spending, is a lot more intentional managing money, and a lot of the resources on Sorted, say our budgeting tool, our mortgage calculator, these are really popular tools that really help people take control of their finances, as opposed to just falling into a mortgage. There's actually ways that they can make it work much better and restructure it for them.
Absolutely. If you can spend on purpose, that's the number one goal, right?
Yeah.
And I think people freak out about that word budget. And I can see why. It's
I know why too, because it feels like a straitjacket. But really, what it is a tool. And a lot of people don't say this, that a budget does not make sense unless it's a tool to do something with it, right? So what is that something? And for many people, especially if you're in a partnership, it's about shared goals. Okay, so let's set some shared goals, and then that budget makes sense. Okay, we'll grab as much surplus as we can, funnel it towards our goals, and actually achieve them. Without that, budgeting for the sake of budgeting is not.
That's really right. That's just lame. And some people really get off on that, but I think that's pretty sad.
Yeah. But hopefully, what they're actually doing is, and doesn't get said often enough, is finding surplus and not just finding that surplus, but orienting that surplus, funneling it towards like a fire hose towards what they want to achieve.
That's right.
And getting there faster.
That's right. That's awesome. Because whatever you're doing, do it on purpose is what I'm always saying to people. And everybody's got that bucket, right? And that bucket leaks. And it's going to leak by default unless you actively do something. But having a common goal, I can see how that's number one, right?
And then all the other techniques of tracking your expenses, all that stuff, then that starts to make sense because you're trying to actually reach.
Correct.
Here's the thing about goals, though, is actually also something else that doesn't get set. They're actually hard to set sometimes because some people don't know exactly and what they want to use their money for or what they want to achieve in life, or they're working with a partner and getting on the same page is not an easy thing. Like, it's a total process. I'm sure you probably see it with your clients. Part of your job will be to help them get on the same page and just decide what to work for. So it's not easy. So when we start on Sorted and somebody just wants to sort out their finances, we try to get them to do other things first so they get into certain habits and techniques. So, for example, we start them on a starter safety net. And for many people, that's just $1,000. Okay. And what that gets people started on is this whole idea of paying yourself first.
Got it.
Right? So you can go around your house and sell stuff you don't need to get that $1,000. But for a lot of people, it's just like putting $10 away a week, $20 away, whatever it is, $50 a pay packet, whatever they can do. But that gets them into the habit of paying themselves for that starter safety net before all the other bills that they can pay. Now, obviously, they can't usually put $1,000 to that, but a little bit at a time. And that little habit there is basically what we need to do when we're managing our money and making sure it's funneling towards our goals.
Yeah, awesome. And a really good book on that is The Barefoot Investor.
Yeah.
And you can, it'll take you through it. Just follow that. It's I think everybody should go that path and read that book and go through that process. I wish they taught something like that in school.
Yeah. Well, funny you mentioned that. Actually,
a handy little segue there, isn't it?
I might just pick on that, up on that because many people don't know that actually we've got a Sorted in Schools program.
Okay.
And
Sorted in Schools is New Zealand's first free financial capability program, and it's fully aligned to the national curriculum. Sorted in Schools is backed by government, it is funded by government, and the big goal or the big vision for Sorted in Schools is to equip young New Zealanders for their financial futures. Teaching and learning materials can be delivered in subjects such as English, social sciences, technology, mathematics, and even health. So these young New Zealanders will be learning about KiwiSaver, insurance, investing and retirement, as well as savings, goal setting, debt, and even things like managing their money.
Students have really started to engage with financial literacy, so they've started to learn more about their own savings, their own income, their own expenditure, and they've also been able to start to make plans sort of long term towards maybe a short-term, medium-term, long-term goals, towards savings, towards building a good sort of key financial plan for themselves.
In health, currently with Year 10, we talk about mental health, and stress is a particular factor that we discuss in mental health. Finances obviously can cause a great deal of stress for people. In sport, we take a number of sports teams away. So if we look at the cost it goes to enter a tournament week or to take students away, we need to look at the bus costing, the activities, the relief cover costs, and then you've got food and everything for the students. So breaking that down into what the real life costs are for entering sports.
We're going to be able to equip all young New Zealanders with financial capability education, regardless of which school they're in, whether they're in a senior secondary school that's teaching New Zealand curriculum or whether they're in a kura that's teaching Māori medium education. It takes a lifetime of planning and a lifetime of great decisions to arrive at your best financial future, and we believe that the Sorted in Schools program brings that education right up front, which means that young New Zealanders are able to make the right decisions as they go through life. Sorted in Schools has 50% of New Zealand's secondary schools that have registered interest in the program, and so what we're doing right now is we're asking for all parents to check in with their schools to see if they're delivering the Sorted in Schools program, and if teachers want to express their interest, they can go to our website sortedinschools.org.nz and register.
And Sorted in Schools, has been rolling out in most schools throughout the country. And it's not about introducing a new subject of financial capability. It's about rolling financial capability lessons into existing subjects. Fantastic. Now, you'd expect it in math, but you might not expect it in like sports, like team planning, budgeting, and things like that, getting from point A to point B, moving the team and stuff like that. Digital technology, social studies. It's being woven in to the existing curriculum.
Wow. So I have some kids. Can I confidently expect that in my school or in every school that they'll be exposed to this at some stage?
Yep. And so that's being rolled out throughout the country. It's been piloted and it's rolling out as we speak. So there's awesome. a lot of great work being done in schools and also with teachers too, because obviously to teach financial capability confidently, obviously you have to do some work and with your own finances, and so we're giving a lot of support there, and people are feeling more and more confident about weaving this into the subject matter.
Keep it up. That's really, like I've been talking to our kids, and we've got the jars set up. I'm going to try and do a podcast with them soon and have them in here, and they can tell their own story. But
now, how many jars do you have set up? I'll just ask you that.
Yeah, good question. So we've got 4. And
so what are the 4? That's great.
Yeah. So we've got the saving jar.
Yeah.
So that's saving for big ticket items. We have the spending jar, so that's giving yourself permission to, in their case, go to the dairy and buy some sweets and go buy some Lego. We have the giving jar.
Yeah.
In our family, that's really important to be generous, so that could be giving to something that's not for you, it's for someone else. And then we have the investing jar, which is actually put it there and watch it grow.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. And you and I have a lot in common because, you
got
my
jars
kids,
too?
I did the same thing. Well, I started them on jars, and now we're in the digital environment because I've got 2 teenagers, but basically those translated into digital accounts just fine.
Yeah.
And that 4th jar, which I always advocate, is that growing jar.
Yeah, right.
And pretty much the rule there is, okay, so anything, you can use that for anything that's used to make more money or to invest.
Got it.
It's an entrepreneurial investment fund, just like what you're doing. It's a great idea.
And I think, like going back to that Sorted in Schools, right? We sometimes put it on our educational system to take care of all the lessons that we possibly should be doing for our kids. And I understand that for a lot of us, we haven't been taught a very good financial education, maybe from our parents or from our schools anyway. So it's really hard, but we do kind of have to get educated ourselves, even though we might already have enough or we're already sorted. We need to actually go through it fresh, even for the sole purpose of taking care of our kids. Because if we don't, we're going to be paying for it in about 20 years' time when we're retiring. We're going to be sorting out our kids' financial problems. It's
great to start early, and I think just for me personally, why I got to that 4th jar is I thought about my own experience coming out with money, where I was really good at doing part-time jobs and stuff like that. I started with lawns and painting houses and stuff like that. So made a lot of money, spent a lot of money, made a lot of money, spent a lot of money. Now and there was never something really more on the long term really growing. So this is what I wanted to give the next generation, that really, if you ask them what money is for, I think the answer should be money is for growing.
Right.
That's what it's for. And in personal finance, we do a lot of talking about, if you think of an apple tree, we do a lot of talking about the apples, but we don't talk about growing the tree.
Absolutely right. Spot on.
And that's what we're after.
That's awesome. And that's so congruent with investing rather than short-term trading or speculating. You're not going to, and you are going to be less likely to fall to scams as well if you're teaching them about the tree rather than the fruit, because the fruit's just a byproduct anyway.
That's right. That's right. And our needs tend to go up over time, and especially when we're talking about the long-term well-being, like in retirement, when you eventually stop working, we know that our needs are only going to increase over time. And so if you're not growing that tree, those apples will never be there.
Fantastic. Well said, Tom. And on that, let's leave it there for today. Really appreciate you coming into the studio today, all the way up from Wellington, just to see me. Right?
Yeah. Fantastic to be on your show. Thanks so much.
No, excellent. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Yep. Bye now.